Hello everyone, I'm Corey Lanou, and today we're going to talk about workflow automation. The first thing we're going to talk about today are file watchers. So file watchers are just really small tools that watch a directory and then just rerun a command when a certain file changes. These are really good for automatically running tasks such as compiling, linting, running test coverage, etc. There's two different file watchers that I like to use. Reflex, which is the one for Mac and Linux, and if I'm on Windows, I use the Watcher one. We can get these installed on our system very easily by just using the go get commands right here. The Reflex utility can be used in a couple different ways. For instance, if I want to run a make file anytime a go file changes in my directory, I can simply use this command right here. Now, be sure to run this command from the root of your project because those are the files that you want it to be watching. We're using the -r flag, which is defined as the regex flag. Now you can use the -r flag and provide as many regex expressions as you want to. For more information, simply use the --help flag as well to see what the other options are. While running a single command to detect the file changes works for really simple tasks, using a tool like Reflex in combination with a shell script actually allows for a lot more flexibility. The first script we'll discuss here is going to be focused on just running test. For simplicity, we'll name the file test.sh. Here's the command we'll use to watch all the Go files and execute test.sh when we detect the changes. So it's just reflex-r, the regular expression for all Go files, and then you have this -- here with sh, which says I want to run a shell file, and then test.sh. The above command will monitor only the files with the Go extension, and anytime a file change is detected, we'll execute the test.sh script file. Depending on your project structure, you may have directories you don't want Reflex to monitor. This might be because the directory is really large, which can be really difficult for some file watchers to load, or because the files are vendored and they don't actually pertain to the changes you're making. To ignore directories such as the vendor directory, we can issue the command. Now notice it's just like the previous command except for we're using the -r this time. That is just the inverse regex option. We're going to tell it that anything that starts with the word vendor is a directory that we want to ignore. So this way, if the project sees any changes in the vendor directory, it will not trigger the file watcher to rerun your command. We also want to remember that as we create our shell scripts, we also need to make them executable. We can use the chmod command with the +x option to tell that script that it can be executed by the system. This way, when Reflex triggers the change and tries to run the shell script, it actually has permission to execute it. In addition to running test, it can also be useful to generate test coverage. This is a very simple script that will run the test and create the coverage files. We just have the go test with the cover profile option. We're going to save the coverage file into the temp directory with a coverage.out file name. And then we run the go tool with the cover command, and we tell it that we just want to create an HTML coverage file from the coverage out that we generated in the previous step. Now notice that we create all the files in the temp directory, and I do this because we really don't need these files beyond the automation, and then this just prevents unwanted file clutter in the project. However, if you do want to keep the files, simply change where you want to keep the files when you generate them. The final piece of automation needed is the Live Reload plugin. This is a free utility that will notify any process listening on port 35729 that a change has been detected and to reload the browser. Now, if you've done any web development, you're probably very familiar with this. However, if you're not, it's a really great tool. The following script will launch Live Reload and monitor the coverage HTML file that we generated from the previous script. All you do is simply run Live Reload and tell it what file to monitor. Now, most browsers have a Live Reload plugin or extension. The one used in this example is for the Chrome browser. You can simply follow this link right here and download that extension. Now, if you're using the Chrome extension, you have to enable local file access by enabling the following checkbox option after installation. It's called Allow Access to File URLs. It can be found in the Tools, Extensions, Live Reload area. Many times, it is not desirable to run all the tests or the corresponding code coverage, specifically if you're doing test-driven development. To narrow down the scope of the tests and associated coverage, you can change the coverage.sh script file that we created previously. Simply add in the -run flag and then give it a regular expression. In this case, we gave it test_validate, so that now I will only run anything that matches the test validation regular expression in my test scripts. As you can see, with just a few simple utilities and scripts, you can now quickly get feedback on the code you're writing without leaving your editor of choice. The first thing we're going to do is actually download the reflex utility. We'll do this using the go get command. So I also use the -u, so it also gets the latest one, and I also use the -v so I can see what it's doing in the background. Okay, now we've got the file utility watcher downloaded. The first thing we'll do is go ahead and open up our test.sh file and take a look at what's inside. As you can see in this test file right here, all we're simply doing is saying go test dot, which says I want to run all the tests in the current package directory. Next, let's take a look at the actual file that we're building and testing. So here's a very simple package I put together called email, and it has one function called validate. And all we're doing is doing some real rudimentary validation to check to see if an email is actually valid or not. Now, if we want to see the tests that are running, we can take a look at those as well. Okay, so here's the test we've got running. Now you can see I've got a simple table-driven test so far. It does some really simple things. It tests for blank, it tests for the @ symbol, tests for a period, and then simply has a valid scenario as well. So we have 3 expected failures and 1 expected success from a test-driven development standpoint. Now that we have our go file and our go test file, the next thing is to actually start using the reflex command. So we can use that by simply using the reflex command shown earlier. In this case, I'm going to tell it to match anything that is a .go file, and anytime it sees a .go file change, to run the test.sh command we looked at previously. So if I go ahead and actually save this file, we'll see the actual tests run now. And there it is. So very simply, it runs them and it shows that they're all working. But let's go ahead and create a failure just so we know that the tests are actually running. And now that we actually made the test fail, we see that the actual reflex keeps running. Notice that I don't have to leave my editor the entire time, and it just keeps running the test every single time I change the file. Go ahead and change it back, and there we have it running again. So the next step is to actually run coverage in addition to the actual test at this point. So if we look at the actual coverage file that we created earlier, we'll see we're just running a go test with the cover profile. Again, we're going to put the coverage out file in the temp directory. And then we're going to run the go tool cover, which actually takes that coverage.out file and converts it to an HTML file. Now the file watch command is the same as before, except for this time we're going to use the coverage.sh. So go ahead and run that. And I'll go ahead and save my file and trigger it off. And now you'll see all of the tests actually ran, and it created the coverage file as well. And so if I want to actually see that, I can actually open that up and look at it in my browser. So let's go ahead and open up that actual coverage file. Remember, we put it actually in the temp directory, so it's already generated there. And if I just issue my open command, it will open Chrome and actually show me that actual coverage file. So this is the actual HTML now I'm looking at that was generated automatically through that reflex command. And here it is all put together. I've got Chrome open on the right-hand side. It's got the live reload plugin actually turned on. It's showing the actual coverage file as it is right now, which we generated previously. On the left side on the bottom, I've got my coverage.sh file that's going to be run by my reflex file watcher. Start that up. So that's running. Now let's go ahead and actually make a change. So if I comment this out right here, we will see the code coverage actually changes. That's very quick to see. Comment out another one and another one. And now we see even those changed. So we actually see our test coverage walk in one by one. So as you can see, it's really quick to get results back. I use this method all the time when I'm doing test-driven development to actually watch code coverage and make sure I'm testing what I expect to cover. And that's all there is to setting up some very simple file watchers to create some much more productive development using automation. I certainly hope you enjoyed this video and you come back for more.
This video was brought to you by Gopher Guides. If you're an organization, conference, or user group that is looking for Go training, please visit gopherguides.com. All training is custom designed to match your educational needs.